Dear students, today in this session 2 we will be discussing some of the topics from Unit 1, Advertising as a Tool of Communication. Communication process. What is communication process? Communication is a technique or the information that are being transferred from one person to another. Here we are considering the one person to another is the source and the receiver. In the perception process, the perception is the imagination where the source has to be conveying the message through a media to the receiver. In any communication process, there should be a form of message through a media to the consumer or the receiver or the end user. The channel between the source and the receiver is becoming or have been very important channel to convey the information very precisely. The message should be in such a way that the source has to encode the requirements of the receiver. Also, the media channel. Now, in this media channel might be of different platforms, that is visual platform, audio platform, or oral platform, or visual and oral platforms. So there are various forms of media mix. It could be through internet, it could be online, it could be through television, it could be through radios, it could be through magazines, newspapers, etc. So all these media carry certain specific messages to convey to a consumer or targeted consumer. Now, for example, the source is me here and the receiver and you students. I am conveying the message through few slides and also in the form of having a platform, a media platform in this channel. I am using a media, internet media or online media to convey some of the topics to you, and you are the receiver who can understand whatever I teach. At the same time, I get back the feedbacks from you. The same thing happens from the receiver also. The receiver also should connect and receive, or he should respond and understand and feel and connect to the messages that are being conveyed. Once the receiver understands the communication correctly, he will be in a position to give a good or bad feedback to the source. Also in between there could be a chances of raising noise. It could be of external noises or internal noises. Now one by one we will study in detail how the source is really initiating the process of communication. Now the source also can be a advertiser. The person who initiates the communication process is normally known or referred as the source. The sender or the source must also develop channels for feedback. He should be ready with the channels or the messages that are to be conveyed through media to the receiver. The source must always transmit the message through effective media. He should choose which media, which platform is the best to convey to the target audience. Also here the source should send or develop ideas and encode, at the same time transfer them to the receiver or the end user. And the source is always the origin at which the message originates in advertising communication system. Now also the sender must also develop a good channel to get a feedback as well. Next, the message. The message is encoded by a source or by an agency. The message refers to the content, the ideas or the thoughts or the text or the feel or the opinions that the source or the sender wants to convey to the consumer or receiver. It is a key or it is a point of view that triggers the recipient or the receiver to respond to the sender. And the sender must ensure the message conveyed must be clear and specific. It should not be having any content or the text that is confusing to the receiver or the end user or the audience. Now, the message conveyed to the receiver should have some fear or a humor. Next is media. In a previous session, we earlier discussed about media. There are various channels or various ways to convey the message or the information or the ideas, thoughts, feelings, etc. And opinions to convey to the receiver. Here, the medium becomes the means of message is being transmitted to the receiver. The medium may be of various platforms such as audio, that is oral platforms, or visual platforms. Visual platforms are mostly online, televisions, and oral platforms are radios, and audio visual or visual oral platforms are televisions. So the media should always have included a verbal channels like telephones, word of mouth, or a non-verbal communication such as email or text messages. And here the media has its own pros and cons. Not every message or not every media can be used for the same source. Different sources has to use different channels of mechanism using a media for different purposes. And this becomes an important phase of communication process. Receiver. Consumer is also called as a receiver. Audience is also called as a receiver. End user also is called as a receiver. The receiver should be precise. He should be able to understand, feel, connect, and believe and act and trust the source that he has received the message through a media. The receiver should always interpret in an advertising communication systems refers to the target audience or the person whom the message is to directed. Now, to understand the information from the sender, the receiver must first be able to receive the information, then decode and interpret. Now, and the characteristics, the behavior of the receiver psychologically should he be able to understand the communication that is being conveyed from the source through a channel media with the message. Now, next is the feedback. Feedback is the very important criteria in the communication process. In order to improve the source, that if any changes, any modifications to be made from the source or made by the source. This is a significant element of the communication process. It empowers the sender to measure the efficiency of message. Also, it enables the sender to analyze the exact interpretation or imagination of the message by a decoder. Decoder is the receiver. The communication process reaches its end goal when the message has been successfully transmitted, received, and understood. Also, the feedback can be in a direct form or indirect form. The feedbacks also could be in the form of oral feedback, written feedback, and maybe both together, oral and written feedbacks, in the form of forms. And the feedback becomes a very important aspect for the source, for them to look forward in producing a better product. Noise. Noise can be any kind of interface that affects the message being sent, received, or understood. Noise is something that creates the distraction to the receiver from receiving the message, and it can result in too many messages. The noise also can be generated when your message is too similar to that of your competitors. Here, the noise is all about is just a disturbance. If the message is being wrongly interpreted by the receiver, or if the message and the media which is not being conveyed to the receiver in a proper channels or proper media, there creates a noise. And here the noises could be external or internal. In external factors, there could be lot of public opinions, marketing strategies, competitions, and other noises. Whereas in internal noise, there should be information processing, attitude, opinions, and various other factors and attitudes. Now, the source has to make sure or ensure that there is no interface or interference of noises in between the source and the receiver. There should be a clear channel from source to the receiver to convey ideas, messages, etc. through a media to the receiver. Marketing communication. This marketing communication is a basic and a complex part of company's marketing efforts. Now, the marketing with respect to communication should have an outline of marketing communication and the concepts that are to be communicated in a proper channel. Also, it has lots of internal and external factors, and also the importance of claiming the most attractive position in the receiver or the consumer. This communication, marketing communication, provides a framework for planning marketing message through the technology. Now, it also describes the process and various methods to develop word of mouth. Word of mouth is conveying directly over telephones and various other social medias where you can talk directly to the receiver or in a marketplace. And the marketing communication also adopts the various technologies. It focuses how and why you should tailor your message or stitch your message one by one for the future visionaries. Thus, the marketing communication is also described as a message and media that deploys to communicate to the market, consumer, or the end user or the audience. Also, the communication in marketing includes advertising, direct marketing, branding, packaging, online presence, printed materials, presentations, sponsorships, trade shows, appearances, and many more. These are all the various forms of marketing communication that helps in decoding the message from the source or the advertiser. Thus, the marketing communication becomes an important yet another tool to convey a best message from source to receiver. End of session 2. Thank you.